I humiliated my wife in front of 50 guests, throwing her out like trash on our anniversary. Everyone cheered. I felt victorious. Then a Rolls-Royce pulled up, and an elderly billionaire stepped out, pointed at her, and said 3 words that made my blood run cold. She is my... If you've ever made a decision you instantly regretted, hit that like button and subscribe because this story gets darker before it gets better. You know that moment when everything in your life seems absolutely perfect? When you look around and think, I've made it, this is exactly where I'm supposed to be. That's where I was 7 years into my marriage with Lillian. My name is Gavin. I'm 34 years old and I own 3 of the most successful restaurants in the city. But that night, our anniversary night, I learned that perfection is just an illusion waiting to shatter. The house was buzzing with energy. 50 guests, maybe more. Everyone who mattered in our social circle was there. Business partners, investors, the kind of people whose handshakes are worth more than most people's bank accounts. I'd spared no expense for this party. Crystal champagne flutes, catered food from the best kitchen in town that wasn't mine, live jazz quartet in the corner. Lillian had wanted something intimate, just the 2 of us, but I insisted. 7 years of marriage to the most incredible woman I'd ever met deserved to be celebrated publicly. I wanted everyone to see what I had, what we'd built together. Lillian moved through the crowd like she was born for it. That's what I loved about her. She wasn't just beautiful, though God, she was stunning in that emerald dress that matched her eyes. She was graceful, intelligent, the kind of woman who could talk business strategy with my investors and then make my elderly neighbor feel like the most important person in the room. She'd been with me since the beginning, back when I was just a line cook with a dream and a maxed-out credit card. While other women had laughed at my ambitions, Lillian had believed. She'd worked double shifts as a bookkeeper to help fund our first restaurant. Every success I'd achieved, she was right there beside me. That's when the text message hit me like a sledgehammer to the chest. I was in the kitchen, refilling my scotch, when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost ignored it, but something made me look. The photo loaded slowly, and with each pixel that appeared, my world tilted a little off its axis. It was Lillian, no question about it. That was her walking into the Grandview Hotel, and that was definitely a man beside her. His face wasn't visible, turned away from the camera, but his hand was on her lower back, possessive, familiar. The timestamp read 3 weeks ago, 2:47 p.m., a Thursday afternoon when she'd told me she had a dentist appointment. Another message came through. Your wife isn't who you think she is. Then another, ask her about room 447. And another, sorry you had to find out this way. My hand was shaking so badly I nearly dropped the glass. I stared at that photo until it burned into my retinas. The way she was leaning slightly toward him, the casual intimacy of it. How many times? How long? While I was breaking my back building our life, was she sneaking off to hotel rooms with some faceless stranger? I walked back into the party in a daze. The jazz music felt too loud, the laughter too sharp. Everyone was having the time of their lives, and all I could think was that my entire marriage was a lie. Lillian caught my eye from across the room and smiled, that warm, genuine smile that had made me fall in love with her in the first place. But now, all I saw was a mask, an actress playing the role of devoted wife while betraying me behind my back. She walked over, concern creasing her forehead. "Gavin, honey, are you okay? You look pale." I took a long drink of scotch, feeling it burn down my throat. "I'm perfect," I said, and the word tasted like poison. Absolutely perfect. The scotch kept flowing, and with each glass, the rage inside me built like pressure in a sealed container. I watched Lillian work the room, laughing at Brett's jokes, touching shoulders, being the perfect hostess. Every gesture felt like a calculated performance now. How had I been so blind? How long had everyone else known? Were they all looking at me with pity, the fool who couldn't see what was happening under his own roof? Brett, my business partner, raised his glass and called for everyone's attention. A toast to the perfect couple, 7 years strong, and here's to 70 more. The crowd cheered, glasses clinked, and something inside me snapped. Perfect couple. The words echoed in my skull like a sick joke. I stood up abruptly, my chair scraping against the hardwood floor. "Actually, Brett," I said, my voice coming out steady, cold. Lillian looked at me with those emerald eyes, confused but trusting. That trust was about to be obliterated. I pulled out my phone, connected it to our TV system. Since we're all celebrating honesty and partnership tonight, I thought everyone should see what 7 years of marriage really looks like. My fingers were surprisingly steady as I pulled up the photo, that damning photo of my wife entering a hotel with another man. The image filled our 65-inch screen. You could hear the collective intake of breath, the sudden silence as the jazz quartet trailed off. I watched Lillian's face drain of all color, her hand going to her throat. "Gavin, please, you don't understand. That's not what it looks like?" I laughed, and it sounded cruel even to my own ears. "I can see perfectly fine. Everyone can see. While I was building our empire, working 16-hour days to give you everything, you were spreading your legs for some stranger in a hotel room?" The words hung in the air like poison gas. Several women gasped. Someone's phone was up, recording. Lillian reached for me, her hand trembling. "It was my brother, Gavin. Please, just let me explain." "Your brother?" I spat the words back at her. "Your brother is dead, Lillian. You told me he died years ago. More lies. How stupid do you think I am?" I grabbed her arm, not gently, and she winced. Something primitive and ugly had taken control of me. All I could see was red. All I could feel was the betrayal burning through my veins like acid. "Get out." My voice dropped to something dangerous and quiet. "Get the hell out of my house." "Gavin, please." She was sobbing now, her mascara running black down her cheeks. "Just listen to me for 1 minute." I dragged her toward the front door. She stumbled in her heels, tried to plant her feet, but I was stronger and too angry to care. The guests parted like I was Moses and they were the Red Sea, everyone too shocked to intervene. I yanked open the door and shoved her out onto the front steps. She fell, catching herself on her hands, that beautiful emerald dress tearing at the knee.
I threw her purse after her, then her phone, watching it shatter on the concrete. "Don't come back. We're done. Finished. I'm filing for divorce first thing tomorrow morning." I slammed the door so hard the frame shook, shutting out her sobs, shutting out any explanation she might have given. Behind me, I heard Brett start clapping, then others joined in. Someone handed me a fresh drink. "Good riddance, man," Brett said, squeezing my shoulder. "You deserve so much better than that." I nodded, feeling victorious and hollow at all once. Through the door, I could still hear her crying. The party continued, but the energy had shifted. It wasn't celebration anymore. It was something darker, more primal. People were drinking faster, talking louder, and I was at the center of it all, receiving pats on the back like I'd just won some kind of twisted victory. But underneath the adrenaline and alcohol, something cold was settling in my stomach. A whisper of doubt I kept drowning with scotch. I was mid-conversation with an investor, barely hearing his words, when the room suddenly went quiet. Not the shocked silence from before, but something different, anticipatory. Everyone was looking toward the front windows, where headlights were casting long shadows across the walls. Expensive headlights, the kind that come from cars most people only see in magazines. "Is that a Rolls-Royce?" someone whispered. My heart started pounding for reasons I couldn't explain. Through the window, I watched a midnight blue Phantom glide to a stop in front of my house, the kind of car that costs more than my first restaurant. The driver, wearing a proper chauffeur's uniform, stepped out and opened the rear door with practiced precision.
An elderly man emerged, and even from inside you could feel the authority radiating off him. He was maybe 70, 75, but he moved like a man who'd never bowed to anyone in his life. Impeccable charcoal suit, silver hair perfectly styled, and a face carved from granite and money. Behind him, two men built like brick walls stepped out, their suits barely concealing what were obviously weapons. Then, a woman in a sharp business suit, carrying a leather briefcase. A lawyer. My mouth went dry. The old man bent down, and that's when I saw her, Lillian, still on the ground where I'd left her, knees scraped, dress torn, makeup destroyed. He helped her to her feet with a gentleness that made my chest tighten, his weathered hand steadying her like she was made of glass. He said something to her I couldn't hear, and she nodded, leaning into him like a child seeking comfort. Brett was beside me, his face pale. "Gavin, man, that's Harrison Ashford, the Harrison Ashford, the billionaire. What the hell is he doing here?" Harrison Ashford. The name hit me like a freight train. Real estate mogul, tech investor, the kind of man who bought and sold companies before breakfast, the kind of man who could destroy lives with a phone call, and he was walking toward my door with murder in his eyes. The knock was thunderous, deliberate, not a request, a demand. My legs felt like lead as I walked to the door. Every instinct screamed me not to open it, but 50 pairs of eyes were watching. I turned the handle. Harrison Ashford stood on my doorstep, and up close he was even more intimidating. His eyes were the same emerald green as Lillian's, and they were looking at me with the kind of cold fury that made powerful men wet themselves. Behind him, the bodyguards flanked the entrance. The lawyer was already recording everything on her phone. "You laid hands on my daughter." His voice was quiet, controlled, and absolutely terrifying. The world stopped spinning. Daughter? Lillian's father died in a car accident when she was 12. She told me. She told you what I asked her to tell you. He stepped inside without invitation, and I stumbled backward. She told you what she needed to tell you to have a normal life, to find someone who loved her for her, not for my money, not for my connections. He looked around at my guests, at my expensive house, at everything I thought I'd built. You never bothered to ask why she worked so hard, why she refused help, why she kept secrets. The lawyer stepped forward, her phone still recording. "Mr. Ashford, everything is documented. Assault, public humiliation, destruction of property." She gestured to Lillian's shattered phone outside. Harrison's eyes never left mine. "That photograph you displayed so proudly, the man with her was Eric, her half-brother, my son from my second marriage. He's been fighting addiction for 3 years. His voice could have frozen hell. She's been secretly paying for his rehabilitation, visiting him, trying to save him. She couldn't tell you because I made her promise not to drag others into our family's shame." The room was spinning. Half-brother, addiction, rehabilitation. Every word was a bullet, and I was bleeding out in front of everyone. I couldn't breathe. The walls were closing in, and Harrison Ashford's words kept echoing in my skull. Half-brother, rehabilitation, family shame. My brain was desperately trying to rewrite the narrative I'd constructed, but the pieces weren't fitting the way I needed them to. "No," I heard myself say, but my voice sounded weak, pathetic. "No, the messages. Someone sent me proof. They warned me about her." "Who warned you?" Harrison's lawyer stepped forward, pulling out a tablet from her briefcase. "Let me guess. Anonymous texts, perfectly timed to arrive during your anniversary party?" She tapped the screen, and I saw my phone records displayed. Every message, every timestamp. These texts originated from a phone registered to Brett Moreland. She turned the tablet toward the crowd. The blood drained from my face as I spun toward Brett, my business partner, my friend of 6 years. He was backing toward the door, his face white as chalk, hands raised. "Gavin, man, listen. Mr. Moreland has been harassing Mrs. Ashford Thorne for approximately 8 months. The lawyer's voice was clinical, detached. Unwanted advances at business dinners, inappropriate text messages, flowers sent to her workplace. She rejected every advance and specifically requested he stop. She never told you, Mr. Thorne, because she didn't want to damage your business partnership or create unnecessary conflict." The tablet screen changed, showing text messages, Brett's name at the top, messages to Lillian that made my stomach turn. "You're wasted on him. When you finally leave Gavin, I'll be waiting. He doesn't appreciate you like I would." Dozens of them, hundreds maybe, and Lillian's responses, always professional, always firm. "Please stop. This is inappropriate. I love my husband." When she continued to refuse him, Mr. Moreland hired a private investigator to follow her. When he discovered her visits to the rehabilitation facility, he fabricated a narrative designed to destroy your marriage. The photographer was instructed to capture only angles that appeared romantic or suspicious. The accompanying messages were crafted to trigger maximum emotional response with minimal opportunity for rational thought. Brett was at the door now, one of the bodyguards blocking his exit. "I led her on. She was always so friendly, so—"
"She was polite," Harrison cut him off with ice in his voice. "Something you've clearly mistaken for interest. A common delusion among mediocre men who can't accept rejection." I looked at Brett, really looked at him, and saw a stranger. How many times had he suggested Lillian and I were growing apart? How many times had he mentioned she seemed distant or stressed? He'd been planting seeds, watering them with doubt, waiting for the right moment to detonate the bomb he'd carefully constructed. "You destroyed my marriage." The words came out strangled. "You made me throw her out. You made me." The realization of what I'd done was crushing me, vertebra by vertebra. "I simply provided information," Brett said desperately. "What you did with it was your choice, man. You're the one who—" One of the bodyguards moved forward, and Brett finally shut up. But he was right. The bitter truth was he was absolutely right. He'd given me the match, but I was the one who'd burned everything down. Harrison turned back to me, and if I thought his fury was terrifying before, the cold disappointment in his eyes now was infinitely worse. "I've been watching from a distance since Lillian married you, making sure she was safe, happy. When she fell in love with you, a cook with nothing but ambition, I thought perhaps she'd found someone who saw her value beyond a bank account." He paused, letting that sink in like a knife between my ribs. "This building you're standing in, I own it. I bought it 2 years ago under a shell corporation. The investors in this room, half of them are my associates who invested in your restaurants as a wedding gift to my daughter. The liquor license that was mysteriously approved when every other applicant was denied, my lawyers handled that." The floor was falling away beneath my feet. Everything, every success, every triumph I'd attributed to my own hard work and talent, Lillian's father had been the invisible hand guiding it all. And now, Harrison's voice dropped to a whisper that somehow filled the entire room, "I'm taking it all back." The guests scattered like roaches when the lights come on. Within 20 minutes, my house was empty except for the catering staff quietly packing up, avoiding eye contact like I had some contagious disease. Harrison Ashford had left with Lillian tucked safely in that Rolls-Royce, and I'd watched through the window as he wrapped a blanket around her shoulders. She hadn't looked back, not once. Brett was gone too, escorted out by those bodyguards with promises of legal consequences I was too numb to fully process. Fraud, harassment, something about intentional infliction of emotional distress. The lawyer's words had washed over me like white noise. I stood in the wreckage of my anniversary party, surrounded by half-empty champagne glasses and plates of expensive food no one had eaten. The photo of Lillian was still frozen on the TV screen. and I finally had the presence of mind to turn it off. In the sudden silence, I could hear my own ragged breathing. My phone buzzed, a message from my bank, then another, and another. Accounts being closed, lines of credit revoked. By morning, I knew what was coming. Harrison Ashford didn't make idle threats, and a man with his resources could dismantle my entire life before I finished my next drink. I tried calling Lillian, straight to voicemail. The number you have dialed is no longer in service. She'd already changed it, blocked me, erased me like I'd never existed. I wanted to scream, to throw something, but what right did I have to be angry now? I'd done this, every bit of it. I walked upstairs to our bedroom, and it looked exactly as she'd left it. Her makeup on the vanity, her book on the nightstand, bookmark halfway through. The framed photo of us on our wedding day, both of us laughing, both of us so stupidly in love. I picked it up, and my hands were shaking so badly I nearly dropped it. That's when I saw the journal, tucked between her pillow and the headboard, leather-bound, her handwriting on the cover. I shouldn't have opened it. It was private, personal. But I was a man drowning, and that journal was the only lifeline in reach. The entries were dated, organized, painfully honest. I flipped to recent pages, and her words gutted me worse than any knife could. May 15th. Eric relapsed again. I'm terrified we're going to lose him. Gavin asked why I seemed distracted at dinner. I wanted to tell him everything, but Dad made me promise. He doesn't want Eric's addiction becoming public knowledge, doesn't want it affecting the family business. I hate keeping secrets from my husband, but I'm caught between the two most important men in my life. June 3rd. Brett cornered me again today after the investor meeting. He said Gavin doesn't deserve me. It made my skin crawl. I deleted his messages like always. Gavin has enough stress with the new restaurant opening. The last thing he needs is drama with his business partner over something so stupid. July 22nd. Spent 3 hours at the rehab facility with Eric. He's doing better finally. Maybe we're turning a corner. Told Gavin I was shopping. I see the doubt in his eyes sometimes when I have to lie about where I've been. It's killing me. But Eric needs me, and I can't abandon my brother. 30 more days, and he'll complete the program. Then maybe I can finally tell Gavin the truth. My vision blurred. I kept reading, torturing myself with every entry. October 10th. 7 years married tomorrow. 7 years with my soulmate. Gavin's planning something big. I can tell by the way he gets that excited look in his eyes. He wants to celebrate publicly, and I just want a quiet dinner, just us. But I love how proud he is of what we've built together. He deserves everything. I hope tomorrow is perfect. The journal slipped from my hands. Tomorrow. She'd written that yesterday, full of hope and love, while I was already planning her destruction based on lies and photos designed to deceive. I don't know how long I sat there on our bed, holding that wedding photo, surrounded by the ghost of the woman I'd destroyed. When the sun started rising, painting the room in shades of gold and pink, I finally moved. I went downstairs, poured the remaining scotch down the sink, and waited for my world to end. It didn't take long.